everybody. Welcome. This is the Investor Coaching Show, and I am Paul Winkler. Yeah. Talking that world of money and investing. Ann Swaski.
Hello.
Hello. We haven't really...
Been a while.
Hadn't even said hi to each other yet, really. Not officially, anyway.
Yeah.
But now that the show started, we can say hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
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 You look funny with your headphones half on your head, half off your head.
Well, I can't hear you if I put them on all the way.
Oh, well,
So.
I guess that is true. All right. Well, we'll let you slide.
Yeah. So.
I do that all the time. I will leave one side off and one side on. I don't even know why I do it. So I know that you have a lot of prep today, that you have a lot of things that you have wanted to talk about. So I'm kind of letting you do your thing. What do you...
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. This is dangerous. No. This is
Got
going
the
to be...
B team here.
No. I always find it's good because anybody that brings in something different than what I have prepared, I get to fly by the seat of my pants, which I like to do. I'm good with that. So what do you have? What do you want to talk about? What in the world of high finance, there's always news. There's always something to talk about. There's always interesting information out there for people to apply. You know, the idea here, the show is always to help people understand more about investing, financial planning, so as to not be blindly trusting the investment industry is the idea, and use your own brain, because, you know, it's there for a reason. And most people don't, I find that most people don't understand or know that they know a lot of what they need to know to be successful investors, number one, and that they have a lot of just intuition and knowledge that, you know, if you are doing what is in line with what you know to be true and what you believe, you're much more likely to keep going and doing it. So that's my philosophy.
Yeah, when I meet new clients in their initials, I always talk about the rules of investing. And I always say, now, you know the rules of investing, right?
No, I don't. And
Right. I know.
I don't know
Every
anything. That's why
time.
I'm here. Yeah.
That's exactly what they say. And I go, no, you really do.
Okay.
And then we kind of walk through
Yeah,
it a little
buy
bit. And they go,
low.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, buy low,
okay.
sell high, diversify.
Right,
Don't
right.
put all your eggs in one basket, and, you know.
Right. But they invariably say they don't know them.
Of course. But
So it's just kind of funny. Like you were saying, I think sometimes people know a lot more than they think they know.
yeah, you can't predict the future. No. Yeah, I know you can't predict the future. Then why is your investment manager trying to predict the future? Yeah, I mean, that'd be another rule we could throw in there.
That's
So
true.
what's
I like
going,
that rule.
I know, and it is. It's a good. It's actually.
is.
I probably ought to say that more often, but
Yeah.
it is the truth. I have found that people invariably, when you ask them, "Can you predict the future?" they go, "No," and then what happens is, a perfect example. I had somebody actually text me this week, and he says, "This guy is saying this is going to happen." And he says, "What do you think? I mean, what do you think about what he's saying?" And I said, "Well, number one," I said, "the guy actually did get a really good prediction. That's why he's famous. And he nailed something about 14 years ago. Nailed it really, really well." And I said, "Last time he predicted something," and I said, "For the life of me, I can't remember what it was, though." And I said, he was wrong. And I was actually hoping he'd be right. You know, I really did. I was hoping he'd be right. I don't remember what it was, but there was something that this guy said, so I'm not going to even mention his name. And then he's making another prediction. Well, lo and behold, you know, you had some news came out. There were news items that came out this week. And lo and behold, isn't it interesting that every piece of news that came out during the week that was actually significant moved the markets? It was the news that moved the market.
You mean new and unknowable information?
Yeah, that type of news.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Okay,
Exactly.
so on to what is on your mind today?
Well, I thought two things would be interesting here. Is the article in Think Advisor today: social media and younger clients, a toxic brew.
Social media and younger clients. Okay, so I definitely have my thought processes regarding that. But what are they saying are toxic?
Well,
issues?
basically, they said that there's a 2021 creditcards.com study that
Okay.
they were talking about. And they said that Gen Z generation showed that social media platforms or influencers were the second most popular resource for Gen Z for financial advice, 28% using it, only behind friends and family as their main resource for financial advice, which was 53%.
Right.
And then
So
millennials.
these influencers, are these the influencers that all live in that little compound in California? Have you seen that?
No,
I
but
did
it
a
wouldn't
thing on it.
surprise me.
No, seriously, I did a thing on that. It was funny because they have these people living in a compound, and and a lot of them I think were miserable, but it was a very, very toxic type of an atmosphere to be in.
Well, I mean, it's really just famous people or people that are kind of wannabe famous people that have figured out how to get clicks on social media, really, is what they're talking about. And so actually, to your point about who it might be, I mean, they had an example in the article called Vegas Dave.
Vegas. Now that doesn't sound good.
I know.
So Vegas Dave, I'm guessing, is a very prudent type of an investor.
So Vegas Dave, he's not in the world of investing. He's in the world of sports betting.
Oh, there you go. That's good. That's always good. Yeah.
But he lures subscribers in with pictures of beautiful women, expensive cars, and the like, all to seduce vulnerable customers.
Right.
But Vegas Dave isn't good at sports betting, and he's universally reviled in the industry. So this is kind of...
That's like some of these stock market commentators.
Exactly.
They're you think, wow, this person's really, really sharp. They're really, really on top of things. And then you find out later that no, not necessarily so great.
Exactly.
Especially when these schools, these business schools, do studies on their stock picks, and they find that they're really
not
bad.
Very good. Yeah. But here's the scary thing too: is that millennials relied on social media about the same amount, 24%, and baby boomers 10%, and or Gen X is 10%, and baby boomers for 4% for getting their financial advice. And this,
I wonder if that's any different though than previous generations. Maybe not necessarily going to social media, but maybe talking to an insurance agent or a banker or a friend from high school that went and got their securities license. I mean, think about back when I became licensed to sell insurance and actually got my Series 6, which allows you to do mutual funds, and then eventually Series 7 bonds and stocks and options and things like that. But I remember going and talking, and I guess I could have been an influencer.
Yeah. Well, but you did have some training. You were holding yourself out. Now,
but
he's
it was
kind of
really
grimacing
bad
a little.
training.
But I mean, you know,
it was really bad training. Yeah, it was really bad training technically.
But it was training. So here's the thing. The same bank rate analyst, Sarah Foster, told CNBC 46% of Gen Zers fess up to posting content that makes them look more affluent and successful than they really are.
Oh, interesting.
Well, but I mean, I'm sure that's not just Gen Zers. Like, I think everybody does that on social media.
Well, that's how many people admit it. I mean, think about it.
But so these are the people, though, that can be influencers for people, you know?
Sure.
And it says here, which I got a kick out of it, it says... this is akin to some of the ads and videos that popped up earlier this century with penny stock touting, showing them aboard private jets and their lavish waterfront homes with extensive collection of exotic cars.
And then you go and do the same thing and lose your shirt and you go, I'll never make it. And then you become depressed and despondent and hopeless and all of that.
Right. But they say, newsflash, all that stuff can be rented for a day.
Exactly.
So... you know, and that reminds me of an article somewhere I read some time ago where they were talking to these investment professionals that were showing their big yachts.
Yeah.
And the guy said, well, where's the big yacht for your clients?
Yeah, the clients. That's right. That's right.
So, you know, influencers, probably aren't the best place to get your investment advice. And and here's the other interesting thing about it. Although they do get their investment advice there quite often, the majority of those polled said they don't believe it's a good source of financial guidance.
Now, is that the people following the influencers, or who says that? Who said that they don't think it's a good source?
The people surveyed. So even though they're doing it.
Oh, even though they're getting information there, they're admitting that's probably not a great place to get information about things.
Right.
Well, so often what happens is people in general, let's just talk in general here for a second. In general, they look at what the wealthy are doing, and you see articles all the time, what the wealthy are doing right now in the stock market. They're getting out, they're getting in, they're doing this, they're buying that. And of course, I talk about how the studies of wealthy people, if you compare the growth of their wealth versus the stock market, it's not a pretty picture, number one.
No.
So number two, looking good. That's what everybody always wants to do. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to look like they're successful. And the desire is to make people envious of you, which is the American way.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's what keeps people caught in the trap of trying to have nicer cars, nicer homes that they can't afford, and looking a life and looking a lifestyle that they truly can't afford. And then they end up being slaves to it. And then they end up being slaves to debt because they end up getting in debt to actually finance the lifestyle that they think is real, that somebody else has, but isn't real. It's fake.
Well, and even if it is real, the same day when I'm doing my research on them relying on influencers.
Right.
Here's an article.
I think I know where you're going. Because I saw that article.
Yeah, Kim Kardashian to pay $1.3 million to the SEC for crypto touting.
Yeah. Pushing cryptocurrency. That's
so
really
she
good.
was pushing cryptocurrencies, and apparently she was paid to do it. She was paid $250,000 to post on her Instagram about buying some crypto tokens, and the SEC seriously frowned on that and said basically that you have to be disclosing that you're being paid to do this. And bottom line.
Ann, here's the issue though. I mean, you're saying you have to disclose that you're paid for doing it. I look at that and go, okay, she discloses it, and it's still a bad idea.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I think the worst part of it isn't necessarily even the deal that she was not disclosing that she wasn't paid, but that she was actually talking about something she knew nothing about.
Right.
And then touting it as a good investment.
Right. And the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, said, this case is a reminder that when celebrities or influencers endorse investment opportunities, including crypto asset securities, it doesn't mean that they're right for all investors.
And I remember a very big celebrity.
Frankly.
Somebody contacted me, said there's a very big celebrity, I won't mention his name, would do a commercial for you and your firm. And I said, no, number one, I said, I'd love to talk to the guy. And so he understands what we do, because I feel like if anybody listens, quite frankly, if anybody listens to what we do, I feel that they'll go, wow, this is really good what you guys do. All bias being admitted right here. But the reality of it was this person said, no, he's not going to talk to you. I said, we're not going to talk to me and is actually going to talk about, no, then that's not going to happen. And, but you see that all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There are people, they can be bought, and they'll say whatever you want them to say about you.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's a lot of it. It is a lot of advertising, unfortunately.
Well, and
it's sad.
Who is it? Tom Brady out there with his little app. Are you in? In the commercial? He's been doing that. I mean, there's numerous instances over and over again of all of these celebrities hawking things. And that's really what they're doing. They're hawking things.
And I have found, even in the media, I've done a lot of things working in the media. And one of the things that I've found is that so often people that are talking heads on TV, people are in the news business, people that are on programs out there, and you think, wow, this person's really, really sharp and they really know their stuff. And then I find that I get in interviews with them and they don't have a clue. And I'll be talking over their head in 2 seconds. But the reality of it is we often give these people that are in the spotlight, we give them way more credit for knowing more than they actually know. So that doesn't...
Well, right. So they in Kim Kardashian's case, I guess, she's very rich. So they think, oh, she must know what she's doing with her money. So
Well, and often back to wealthy people in general, many of them have started businesses and become wealthy with businesses that they own, but they know nothing about investing. So
Right,
so
right.
so true.
Right.
And here's the I'm going to give you the positive spin on this as we head up into a break here in a second. People get wealthy owning businesses, and you think about the people that are name celebrities that are wealthy and their high net worth is typically because they are the business, maybe they are the brand, so to speak, or they run a business. Think people always talk about Bill Gates. You talk about, Steve Jobs when he was around, when Apple and building that company, Elon Musk, and, go on, the list goes on and on, but they're all business owners. And the beauty is that we get to be what I love about the stock market. You get to be a business owner, except not just one, but you own tens of thousands as an investor in stock markets. So it's really critical to make sure that you are one of the, I look at it as when you're building your wealth and you're trying to preserve it, that is one of the best, historically, the best ways to grow and sustain and protect wealth is in the stock market. So understanding how markets work, I think it's a critical thing as an investor, and that's what this show is about. So we're going to continue on right after this. You're listening to the Investor Coaching Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And we are back here on the Investor Coaching Show. Paul Winkler, along with Dan Sawatsky, talking world of money and investing. All right. And it's yours.
all right.
What do you got?
Well, article about that 5-year gender longevity gap,
Okay.
which actually, it starts out at 5 years at birth, but by the time they hit 65, it's no longer a 5-year gap because...
So guys just naturally are crazier than women. And
Yeah, when they're younger.
born, they're probably, maybe it. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
That's why it's 5 years from birth.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. From birth it would be,
Yes.
but later on, once they've gotten the craziness out of their system, they're not necessarily living that much shorter. Okay.
Right. So, I mean, as a general rule, when they reach 65, the life expectancy difference is only about 2.5 years
That's
difference.
it.
Yep. So,
That is surprisingly small.
Right.
I have not looked at that in a while. That is interesting.
yeah.
So there are probably all kinds of implications with that because people often ask, "Hey, when do you take Social Security?" And that gets into
Right. But
All
back
right,
up.
I'm
back
hanging.
up.
All right, I'm backing up.
Because it's not even 2.5 years for higher net worth financial planning
Oh.
clients, which is where it gets kind of
So
interesting.
higher net worth, there's not even that much difference.
Right. It's only about 1.5 years
interesting. That's
compared
really
to
tight.
higher income women. So there's a little bit of a gender gap, but not much. It's actually a third.
Okay, so I have my guesses as to why higher net worth people typically live longer and live more evenly. But what do they say?
Well, they say that today higher income men smoke less, exercise
Yep.
more,
Yum.
eat better, and have access to higher quality health care than lower income men. So,
Right. Yeah.
so that's what they're attributing it to.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. So typically what happens is the habits, and it's just, to me, it'd be interesting to delve into why the habits are so different. Some people say it's education. I think it's more in depth than that. I'm just going to throw a little psychology here. Just a
okay.
little bit. Okay. So one of the things that happens with people is, and I'm going to have to really think through this, is because of issues with attachment and relationships, a lot of times what happens is we often say in psychology, they say that if you don't attach to somebody, you'll attach to something.
Thing. Yes.
So what happens is if we have better relationships, and maybe is there more time? I don't know. I have to really think through this, because sometimes you have some really bad stuff in high income neighborhoods. You have some bad relationship issues, but sometimes it can be really good. I have to really think through this. But what happens is if you have better relationships, more time to do that. And I think that's a big reason that people save for retirement, is because as you get older, you want to have more time to be able to change in your relationships and do the things that you never got to do. Maybe spend more time with the people that you want to spend more time with. I was actually listening to a musician the other day, and was actually retiring and getting off the road. And the reason was want to spend more time with his family. And, the freedom to do that is totally there. When you have saved, I remember a doctor once saying that the reason that he saved money was because it gave him options. So let's say that part of it is better relationships. Okay, so if we have better relationships with people, then what happens is we're less likely to turn to things. Now, what things do people turn to? Now, sometimes even wealthy people turn to bad things. Maybe they turn to money, or they turn to their job, because they just drown their lack of success in relationships in work and in just collecting money. Think Scrooge. But sometimes what happens when people have bad relationships, they turn to things like drugs, alcohol, and food. So they have a relationship with food, and it's a bad relationship with food. So I can see where that might be the case, that possibly people that don't have the freedom to have the relationships because they don't have the time, because they didn't have the money to create the time to have the better relationships, may turn to worse eating habits and more alcohol, drug, smoking, whatever it is that they're attaching to. So
when it comes to...
I'm just theorizing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Your guess is as good as mine. Well, yours is probably better than mine, because you do have a psychology.
A little bit of research behind it. Yeah.
But anyway, another thing, though, on the food aspect is healthier food typically costs more.
I've actually heard that that's a myth, though. I have a friend of mine, she's a doctor in nutrition, listens to the show, and she probably, just her hair just, went on in when you said that, because she said that's a big myth. And there are lots of foods that you can buy very, very cheaply. She does a lot of coaching on this, and I've actually seen the evidence behind it.
Okay.
But she would say that.
I don't know. When I go to the grocery store, it always seems to cost more. But
well, I guess it depends, because sometimes what happens is you get stuff that it might be what you pick. Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, though, so here's getting back to what you were saying earlier, that there's planning implications because of this.
But I think comfort food is cheaper. But anyway, sorry.
No, I mean financial planning, not, food planning.
No, I know, but I was going back to the food planning. But yeah, so sorry, what did you say about financial planning? What was it?
Well, it does. On a positive note, I guess, with the men living longer, you have 2 Social Security checks coming in instead of one. So that's a positive from a financial standpoint, because when one spouse passes, you'll just have the higher of the 2.
Well, I think, you think about this, and you said this, and you said that you have 2 people living more approximately the same age. If you think about joint life expectancies, I'm going to guess that the joint life expectancies are longer as well, which gives us more options and more reason to push off Social Security, especially the higher earning
Exactly. And that was what they were saying, was they said the longer lifespan of higher income men can increase the present value of claiming Social Security by tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars versus
it's huge.
The average male.
It's got to be huge. Because I know that's one of the things we play around with the software that we use for Social Security planning. It's playing with those life expectancies is a big deal and a big game changer as far as when you take your benefits. So, very typically, the only time it really makes some sense to draw a benefit a little bit earlier is, let's say that if you have one spouse whose benefit is well less than half the other spouse's benefit. Sometimes you can make that case because their spousal benefit will be unaffected by the, unaffected, it's by the way you take it, because if you go to age 70, the higher income earning spouse waits till age 70 to draw their benefit from Social Security. The spousal benefit will only get them to half the other spouse, half of what their benefit would have been. It's complicated. I'm like going, oh, Paul, don't go down that road. It's too complicated to explain on the radio. It just suffices to say that, rule of thumb many times is if your benefit is less than half of your spouse's, many times it does make sense to draw the benefit. But that's one of those things that you do in the program is determine whether that is really the case for you. But
Right. But here, even with only a 1.5 year longevity difference, too, considering that a lot of the time the women are younger than the men that they marry, there's still going to be a gap there.
That's a
Typically.
really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
So-
really good point. So there may be that case where you still have a gap. So that's where planning for Social Security benefits can get a little bit more tricky.
Right. And then also, though, the implication with men living longer is, right now, 70% of the time women end up with the money.
Yeah, widow.
So what this may end up being is, especially more with higher income men, they're more likely to be the one that would end up with the money in certain circumstances because they're living longer. So that could change that a little bit.
And I'm going to tell you statistically from Psych again, men tend to get remarried more often.
Right.
Yeah.
And quicker,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.